the fear of death. And again, this is something especially that affects secular people because they can't escape the fact that as they grow older, they become weaker. They're not able to do all the things they used to do when they were young. They can't chase their pleasures and desires the way they used to. And this bothers them. And they think, oh, I don't have the ability. I can't travel like I used to. I can't mess around like I used to. But for us, it's a different story altogether because we know that death, as Allah says in the ayah, right? In Surah Al-Imran, ayah 158, Allah says that if you die or you're killed, it's to Allah that you return. So the way Imam Al-Buti explains this is he says, you have to think of it this way, that you've spent your entire life worshiping Allah, praying 5 times a day, but you never saw Him. Fasting Ramadan, but you never saw Him. Hajj, Ramadan, reading the Quran, all the dhikr, but you never saw Allah. And now that veil is being lifted. That's what death is. That veil between you and Allah is being lifted. Right? There's a story that Imam Ghazali relates in the Ihya al-Madin. It's also in Sharh al-Sadur by Imam Suyuti, which is a book about the states of the dead, where the angel of death comes to Ibrahim alayhi salam. Right? And we all know that Ibrahim alayhi salam, his name is Al-Khalil. Right? He's the intimate, close friend of Allah. And when the angel of death comes to him, Ibrahim alayhi salam, he responds and he says, Araita Khalilin yuridu an yamita Khalila, right? He says, have you seen a Khalil who wants to cause his Khalil to die? Right? And then Allah reveals to Ibrahim alayhi salam, he says, Araita Khalilan la yuridu an yara Khalila, meaning have you seen a Khalil who doesn't want to meet his Khalil? Right? And then Ibrahim gives up. He says, fine. Right? Goes into sujood and Allah takes his soul. Right? So when it comes to, again, to death, we should see it as the fact that it's this reunion with Allah, and whatever good we've done in this life, the reward for it has been stored up for us. That's where it comes back. And when we die, and one of the things the ulama always stress, is that, like for the believer on his deathbed, when you get to the end of your life, you should have nothing but a good opinion of Allah. Nothing but a good opinion of Allah when you're on your deathbed. Right? And this is part of the reason why, like Imam Suyuti mentions that in Sharh al-Sudur, he says that the believer on his deathbed, the believer will have a hard death. He'll have a difficult death. There'll be some illness or some agony. And the unbeliever will have an easy life, will have an easy death. And what he means by this, or why this is, he says the unbeliever will have the easy life, will have the easy death because he's being rewarded for whatever good he did. And then the punishment starts after death. Whereas the believer is being forgiven. He's being cleansed and purified before he goes back to Allah. Right? It's all about mercy. And Imam Al-Bulti puts in a story here from the Sahabi Bilal al-Habashi radhiallahu anhu. And then when he was lying on his deathbed, and he's in agony, right? He's in pain, he's on his deathbed, and his relatives were all around him. And one of them said, oh, what agony, what pain you're in. And then Bilal, he sort of woke up, he opened his eyes, he said, no, what joy. Tomorrow I will be with Muhammad and his companions. Sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Right? He saw the bigger picture. Right? I'm going to be reunited with the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. You see, right? And we all know how Bilal was after the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam passed away. Right? Like you couldn't give the adhan because he was so heartbroken. Right? So people aren't, we look at the rank of the companions, they're not desperate to stay here. And this is again, when we tie this all in, and again, we go back to the point of like where we come from, the fact that like we're originally from Jannah. And I try to think of an analogy, but probably the best analogy I can think of, and Allah knows best, is that this world is just like a giant hotel. That's what it is, right? Everyone's room is booked and paid for, and Allah knows when you're going to check out. Allah knows you're going to check out. One day you'll get that phone call, and the angel of death will come and take you away. So when you think about death, you're just going back home. Do you know anyone who clings to a hotel? Right? I don't care if it's a 7-star hotel, whatever it is, right? Home sweet home. There's nothing like home, right? So you accept the fact, okay, this is not where I belong. This is not where I'm from. This is not my permanent abode. Allah is calling me back. Accept it. right? Why would we cling to this cling to this dunya that is temporary, it's full of trials, it's full of tribulations. Allah is just testing us, it's just a testing ground, right? It's like an examination room, right? I mean, I don't know anyone who enjoys exams, right? You're happy when the exam is over, right? GCSEs and O levels, or whatever it is, not O levels anymore. Sorry, I'm dating myself. But of course, right? You get the idea.